Welcome to the Law Management Journal and our Q&A podcast series. Through these podcast interviews, we are telling the stories and exploring the leadership and business strategies of some of the leading minds in the Australian legal sector.
Hi, I'm Cameron Cooper, editor of the Law Management Journal. In our latest Q&A, we're speaking to Jordan Furlong, a respected Canadian law firm consultant. In this interview, Jordan explains why his career shows that there are many ways to make a difference in the legal industry without being a lawyer, and why measures such as productivity and growth are not the be-all and end-all for firms. Jordan, thanks for joining us today on the Law Management Journal podcast. Really great to have you on board.
Thank you very much, Cameron. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Wanted to kick off because I know you said in one of your columns that you weren't meant to be a lawyer. You started out as a lawyer and then you decided it wasn't for you, and you've since had a very successful career as a consultant to the legal practice sector, including writing great columns and also standing in front of lawyers and telling them how they can hopefully run their practices a little better. Yeah, just tell me about that sort of journey that you came on and what have some of the highlights have been for you?
Yeah, well, it's really been interesting, Cameron, because what I have found in the course of the, coming up on 15 years I've been doing this, and there are times when I've struggled to define exactly what this is, but I really think I found my niche in this profession. I figured out pretty early on, with the help of a couple of law firms, that I was not meant to practice law for a living. But I've really still felt drawn to this profession, to this sector, trying to really just contribute in some fashion and help make things better in some way, to put it very plainly. That's really what got me interested in law in the first place. And what I found is that it took me a while. I kind of wandered here and there, but I have kind of found the position from which I can do that best. And that's something I try to make a point when I'm speaking with younger lawyers or law students, which I do fairly frequently, is that, look, it may take you a while, but there is a space for you. There is a place for you in this profession, in this sector. And if you don't find it right away, don't despair and don't take it to heart. Just keep looking. There is a niche. There is a spot for you.
Yeah, it really does show that there are multiple ways of contributing to the profession, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I was speaking to a group of law students in the U.S. just last week, and I said, how many lawyers, what percentage of U.S. lawyers do you think practice in law firms of 50 lawyers or more? I said, figure out yourselves what you think that percentage is. But the last time I looked, it was 9. And I said, there's a built-in default, especially in the North American profession, that when you go to law school, you're to become a lawyer. And a lawyer means you're working in a law firm, usually a sizable one, with a lot of clients and a lot of space around you, and you are in the private business of law. And I said, that describes very, very few lawyers. So it's and it's going to become an even more diversified and exciting profession over the course of time. So yeah, just keep looking. Your niche is out there waiting for you.
And the highlights for you? You obviously get a lot of satisfaction out of helping law firms and contributing to the sector, but you tell me about it.
Yeah, well, I try. I haven't got booed off a stage yet, so that's a pretty good sign.
That's good.
It is very fulfilling on those occasions, and it does happen to me, which is nice. I'll be at a presentation or even at a conference of some kind, and someone will come up to me and introduce themselves and say, "Listen, I read your work, or I read your book, or whatever, and I decided I was going to, strike out on my own or do something differently, and I'm doing this today, and I couldn't be happier. I am really feeling incredibly fulfilled as a lawyer." And I said, well, that literally makes it worthwhile for me.
Now, I'm normally sitting in Brisbane, but today, strangely, in Los Angeles, and you're up in Canada. So I thought it was logical to get an oversight of how you think the profession is going in North America. Obviously, post-COVID, there have been enormous changes on many fronts in many sectors. But yeah, what's your assessment of the legal market in North America at the moment? I know that's a big question. And how are firms going?
It's a very big market, as you say, and a very big question. Somewhere in the range of 300 to 400 billion dollars US is spent every year in North America on legal services. So it is incredibly vast and deep and diversified. I do think that there are mega trends that are roiling the waters in the profession up here. AI is a big one. We can talk about that. Generational shifts are real. They are having a huge impact on the way many law firms of all sizes are recruiting and finding and developing and hopefully keeping younger talent. And just generally the increasing empowerment of everyday people and clients is having a big effect as well. What I find that in North America, and we're talking North America, we're talking the U.S. primarily, which is easily 10 to 12 times the size of the Canadian market. The U.S. market, I think, is generally evolving slowly towards a point it needs to evolve a whole lot faster towards.
Right. Okay.
There is still an incredible bias towards tradition, bias towards this is the way we've always done things. And if there's been anything that I've been trying to speak to with more urgency in the last few years, it's that, folks, you've got to accelerate the process by which you get to the next thing, because the platform upon which we are standing is dissolving as we speak. And if you continue to mosey towards the future, as I have found lawyers here have been doing, you're going to have a lot of trouble here. I suppose it kind of comes down to a way of saying, hurry up. But it really is the message I have to send to lawyers these days. It's like, we're out of time. We don't have the luxury of approaching the shifts in this market at the pace that we would like. Other people, other forces are dictating our pace to us. Lawyers don't like that. Lawyers don't like being rushed, but get used to things you don't like, I suppose,
Yeah.
is
Why
something
is there
that I've been.
such resistance, do you think, Jordan?
Oh, it's part of the nature. I think the profession itself tends to be conservative and risk averse for the kind of work we do. We tend to self-select the profession. People who are that way inclined. I like to say it's people who are bright, curious, like solving problems, but either we're no good at math or don't like the sight of blood, and that's more or less the legal profession. But also, it's been an incredibly complacent market. It's not difficult to get into, other than socioeconomically. Massive barriers to entry socioeconomically to law. But honestly, in terms of the demands, it's a 3-year, honestly trumped up undergraduate degree. It's a fairly pointless bar exam, and then you're in. And then once you're in, it's very, very difficult to get booted out. So it's very comfortable. It's been very remunerative. Either it's a decent living all the way up to an insanely good living. And there's a lot of bring out the cliches, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't rock the boat. Everything's working great. So it's the complacency of the monopoly. It's the complacency of the protected profession that enjoys its status, enjoys its income. Why would it change? Richard Susskind said it very wisely 20 years ago. Why would a room full of millionaires want to change their business model? Not all lawyers are millionaires, but when something's been working for you really well, why would you change it?
So what are some initial steps you think that law firms should be taking to turn this around, I guess, Jordan?
Well, I think a big measure of it is trying to get a sense of what are the forces. I sort of mentioned mega trends and mega forces that are changing, that are forcing us to pick up our pace. And the number one, with a not just a bullet, but a hail of bullets, is generative AI. I first encountered generative AI in its current form with ChatGPT 4 back in March 2023. Most of us did, I think, at that time. And even then, I sensed this could have a significant impact. But to me, at that point, I saw it primarily as a productivity amplifier and accelerator, something that would not just enable, but would almost oblige law firms and lawyers to get their work done faster. And I said, for a profession that sells the effort and time that it consumes in order to generate its work, a machine that essentially dematerializes effort and time is a real problem. And so that's what I was saying early on. It's that this is a fundamental challenge to the business model. It's a fundamental challenge to the culture of lawyers, which is just to say, I am a person who serves one client at a time in a very linear format, a face-to-face format, and I bill my time and my efforts, and the way we've been doing it for a long time. And so AI at its simplest level challenges that. But the more I read, the more I see about where generative AI is going, with the advance of AI agents, with the development of AI reasoning capabilities, where I'm reading articles literally today talking about how the AI that's being deployed in legal environments right now, law firms and law departments, is easily at the level of a mid-level associate. And that's mind-blowing, because it isn't just a question of how fast can it get work done. It's a question of what is the level of creativity, what is the level of not just issue spotting, but problem solving, and also problem identification, seeing possibilities that didn't exist before. So one of the things I'm forced to say to law firms is that, look, within 10 years, generative AI is going to be the main productivity and outcome generation engine of law firms. They're going to supplant human lawyers as the sole provider. I think at our best case scenario is that they level up to the point where an experienced owner or partner level lawyer would use AI as an extraordinarily insightful and powerful resource to deliver better outcomes and better value to clients. I mean, that's the optimistic view. The pessimistic view is that it leaves us in the dust, but we can talk about that later if you like. So AI is just a massive factor for law firms to take into account, and that just has knock-on effects in terms of, again, what are you bringing associates into your firm to do? I made a point. I was talking to a law firm, a national firm here in Canada, last fall, and like many law firms that are contacting me these days, they're saying we are hitting a ceiling on the number of billable hours we can get from associates. We set these targets for them and they're consistently falling short. And I had to say, you got to get used to this idea that ceiling is going to keep on dropping. And you've got to start wrenching yourself away from this idea that the primary role that associates play in your law firms is as generators of billable hours, because that model's going away. And you need to rethink how you're going to bring lawyers into your firm, how you're going to recruit them, train them, develop them, deploy them, because lawyers are going to be doing different things in the future than they've done in the past. So continuing to develop and deploy lawyers the way we always have is simply it's not going to fit. It's not going to fit the model we're going to have.
And Jordan, you, interestingly, in one of your recent columns, you were saying, in terms of law firms being far more proactive on this front, you were suggesting that rather than putting up with a tool such as ChatGPT, for example, that the legal industry should be coming up with their own Gen AI tool that is really useful for them, really useful for clients. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's two angles on it, right? And we are seeing more and more, and this is like literally just in the last few months, I'm seeing the release of new generative AI systems that are designed specifically for the legal market that are revving up considerably in terms of what they can do. I got a demo of a legal research AI product from a company called Vlex, which was like, I'm speechless. I'm looking at this thinking, why would you ever train a lawyer to conduct legal research again? That's how all-consuming I think that this possibility is going to be. And there are going to be other tools entering the market very fast that law firms are going to be able to deploy. And I don't just mean the massive law firms with the deep pockets. It's something that even in due course, small firm lawyers will be able to access as well. So I do think that we are very rapidly moving past the era of, oh, you can't use AI because it'll make up cases and hallucinate and so forth. I still hear lawyers talk about that. Oh, I'd never use it because of this and this. And I said that was so long ago in terms of AI development that you might as well be talking relatively ancient history. So the tools are coming fast. But the other point about something that is suitable for clients, I think that's an even bigger issue for everything I've talked about, for how I think AI is going to have a significant, I think, transformative impact on law firm business models. It's going to have, I think, an even more sizable impact on the demand side of the market. Generative AI is going to become a tool, a reliable, effective tool that people use. And when I say people, I mean individuals, I mean businesses, I mean corporations, I mean the class of humans on this planet that we used to call clients, right? And probably still will. People are going to use AI to do a lot of things that they used to come and hire lawyers to do. And I think that is the ultimate impact that AI will have that we really don't have the capacity to get our heads around right now, because we don't know. We don't know how far this is going to move and how far it's going to develop. We also don't know the extent to which there will be efforts made to ensure that these tools are in fact available to the public. I wrote a piece recently saying, look, it's no good anymore for lawyers to get up on their high horse and say, now, individuals out there, don't go using ChatGPT for your legal problems. You know what? They're using it anyway. And one of the reasons they're using it is that they can't afford lawyers, so they got to use something to move down the road. So, in worst case scenario, and this is not out of the question, we see with the increasing growth of oligarchies and monopolies and the techno-authoritarianism that is now taking over the world, all of the great Gen AI tools will be locked away behind incredibly high paywalls, and ordinary people will never get a chance to benefit from them. That's not out of the question. But an equally, I think, plausible outcome is that there will be tools made available to people which are in fact able to carry out a tremendous amount of legal work in terms of information provision, remedy identification, solution provision, things that, again, people would go to lawyers and say, I need to know the answer to this question. I need a document that lets me do this, and I need an arrangement or a transaction conducted that will allow me to do this. And they will not be coming to law firms for that kind of work anymore. That is something we, again, are not ready for as a profession. We're not ready for it as a society, quite honestly, that level of individual empowerment. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I'd be very surprised if we see anything full scale along those lines within the next 5 years. But within 20, oh yeah, I think easily.
Given all that you say then, Jordan, I'm interested, we're talking in addition, we're working on at the moment about talent management, and you talked before about the 3-year law degree. Will we be bringing in different people, more tech-savvy young kids coming through the ranks, chasing a different sort of talent?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I do think we're going to require different kinds of people with different kinds of skill sets and personalities and attributes to become lawyers than we did in the past. The mythical skill set of the lawyer is the argumentative, difficult person, right? We all know, something, oh, well, you should become a lawyer. You're so good at debating. No, that's not the point. But the people who have become lawyers have tended to be people who are very analytical, very detail-oriented, who love solving problems, who love engaging with ideas and facts and evidence and digging in. It's the kind of person who is kind of looking down at a book or at a screen or at a keyboard or whatever. They're engaging with things and ideas, right? So the ability to analyze and to reason and to persuade, that's all been key elements of being a lawyer. I think a lot of those needs are going to get met by technology. I think as a result, what we're going to be looking for in lawyers of the very near future is not, and it's not that we don't need those skills or they're not valuable. It's always valuable to have critical thinking and an analytical faculties, no matter what you're doing, especially for the higher level work that lawyers think will be called upon to do. But I don't even think you need the tech savvy stuff, because AI is not. You don't need to be good at technology to use AI. That's one of the reasons why it's been so popular. Anybody, like off the street, can start using an AI and they get results in ways that work for them. So what are we going to need from new lawyers? We're going to need humanity. We're going to need relationships. We're going to need the ability to connect with other people, gain their trust, and become advisors and advocates who are in a position to say, I can help you with your life goals, with your business goals, with a particular problem that you're facing. But I am the person who's here to help you deal with all the difficult things that are coming our way. And that's something which, could you engineer an AI to do that kind of thing? Yeah, I think so. And is it possible that we may be heading towards a society in which people only want to get those kinds of interactions from machines? It's possible. Kind of hope not. But I think the likelier outcome is that people will, for the foreseeable future, still want other human beings to relate with, to connect with, and to say, will you help me with what I've got going on here? That is not a set of skills we have traditionally recruited for in the law, which is one of the reasons why communication and client management and relationships are things that lawyers tend to be quite bad at, as a general rule. We're going to hire people, we're going to recruit people, we're going to draw people into this profession who I think are more naturally inclined that way. At least that's my belief and my hope. And I do think that will be part of a process by which we do adapt to this new market. When we have machines to do all of the expertise and analysis and everything else for us, what is left for us is the human element. And I think that's going to become essential to being a lawyer.
Well, it's a topic that's not going to go away, clearly. Now, I was going to ask you a question. It may now be redundant. If there was one piece of advice that you could give to managing partners today, what would it be? But it sounds like it's going to be around that technology angle. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it is a technology angle, but it's also... AI is a catalyst, right? It's an extraordinary catalyst, one we haven't actually seen before, but it's not an end in itself. It is a means to another end. So if I'm a managing partner, if I'm a lawyer in any kind of capacity, and I am at least reasonably familiar with what AI can do and where it's going, I kind of have to ask myself, have to kind of go back to first principles. What am I here for? Why would anybody need me to help them out with something, right? And when you start asking your clients, of course, is a great place to start that conversation. But when you figure out what is it that I am going to be needed for, going back to what our very first start of the conversation, what's my niche? What's my role? For whom am I here to be a service and a benefit and a guide and an advocate and an advisor? In what capacities, in what sense, what are they looking for from me? Then when you've got a sense of that, then you can start building out a new and better business model, because it doesn't make any sense to me to be a personal, trustworthy advisor who bills by the hour, right? That doesn't make any sense to me. And this goes back to the whole question of what are you selling? Right. And my view on this is that whatever we've been selling in the past, which basically is lawyer time and effort in various capacities, multiplied by lawyer experience and expertise, those have been the two the elements of the graph. We're going to be selling three things that matter to clients: the outcome that they came to us to get, the experience that they either enjoyed or endured to get the outcome that they wanted, and the relationship that they built and experienced with their provider throughout the process. those are things that people will, I believe, actually pay for. And I think they'll pay better than we think they will, because that personal touch is going to matter a great deal. Will law firms be more profitable in the post-AI future than they are today? I have no idea. I can't say I care that much. To be honest with you, I'm of the view that the law does not exist to make a living for lawyers, but it's going to be different. And I think the more we gear ourselves towards, again, where's the value that we're adding to people, to businesses, to society? We haven't even talked about all the rule of law stuff. Where's the value that we can give? And I think increasingly the value is going to be human. It's going to be societal. It's going to be very much grounded in ethics and professional responsibility, and that's what we can do. So that's where I think my advice to managing partners is, you're going to be running a different kind of business in 10 years than you are today. The sooner you start that process of transitioning, I think the better.
Now, our time is winding down. We should have allocated an hour for this, I think, Jordan. But I was interested. You can tell I've been trawling through your columns, and I'd advise other people to do that as well. But you made a point in one of your recent columns saying that you're a critic of traditional law firm measures such as productivity, pricing, and growth. And you think the focus should be more on issues such as client outcomes, client relationships, reputational capital. Yeah, can you sort of touch upon that a little? Because I think that's really fascinating for a lot of firms.
Sure. Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, to me, what matters to clients? Clients don't care how hard you worked on a file. They truly don't. In the same way that I don't care how long it took my mechanic to fix my car, and I don't care how much effort he had to put in, and I don't even care how many years he went to mechanic school to do it. None of that is relevant to me. All I care about is, when do I get my car back? Is it going to run as well or better than it did when I brought it in to you? That's it. Right. And ideally, I would prefer not to have to walk through a messy, oily, grease-stained garage to get this kind of service. And I would rather not be treated with contempt when I go up to pay the bill. Okay, so that, I think, is the problem with using lawyer-based measures rather than client-based measures. Now, you mentioned productivity and pricing and so forth. These are important things, right? You need, no matter what kind of business you're running, even if it's a purely human relationship advisory advocacy business, you still got to be productive. You still got to get the most bang for your buck for your time, because your time is limited. I don't think you should be selling it by the hour, but I do think you should make the best use of it for a whole bunch of reasons. So productivity is important. Productivity as measured solely, and this is where a lot of law firms, I think, go off track. They measure productivity in terms of how many hours did you bill, and I said that's incredibly narrow-minded and unidimensional when there are so many different ways in which a lawyer or any person within a law firm is contributing value to the firm and to its clients. Right? Same thing with pricing. Of course, you need to know how to price your work to people. You got to make a living, but pricing it according to your time and effort was always questionable, and doing it at a time when there's a machine being installed in your office that's going to turn hours into minutes or seconds is a really bad idea, right? So it's not a matter of going away from a focus on productivity and price or anything else like that. It's a measure of moving away from measures that are based around lawyers. This whole lawyer-based fixation we've got as a profession, that everything is expressed in unit of lawyer. We got to get out of our own heads. We got to get out of our own worlds and spend more time in the real world where people live, where problems actually occur, and look at things more from the perspective of the people we're here to serve. That alone, that mindset shift alone, which is a considerable challenge for lawyers, especially if you've been in business for a while, is not a small one. But if you can make that change, you are more than halfway there to the process of making a better, and I think, different business going forward.
Jordan, we've covered a lot today, and I really appreciate your insights. Maybe we should chat later in the year and cover some of these other topics. But as a final sort of message, are there any other sort of comments that you'd like to get across to law firm leaders today?
Yeah. beyond the points that I've made, I would say you've got to spend a lot more time. Okay, obviously clients are important. Obviously the market is important. Nothing I would say would suggest otherwise. But law firms have to take their talent, their individual people within the firm, a lot more seriously. There are way too many firms that are looking at their lawyers especially, and their younger lawyers especially, as billing machines, as cogs in the gigantic contraption of law firm profitability. I have to remind law firms, the great majority of people who enter your firm are going to leave someday. Right? The number of people who start off at your law firm as a first day associate and retire 50 years later with the gold watch or whatever it is we're giving away at that point, right? That's in the single digits. Most everybody else is going to leave at some point. If you don't gear your talent development, your person development towards this idea that they are only here for a brief time, they're going to go something else, then you're losing out, because you may only see them as billing cogs. You may only see them as service drones, but they see themselves as people who have lives, and they came to your business in order to make a living, yes, but also to gain skills and gain experience and expand their network, so that the next job they take, wherever it is, will be more fulfilling, will pay better, will do all these sorts of things. And if you and that's what they care most about. And if you're not aligned with that, if you're not actively assigning resources and time and money and energy to helping them with that, then you are at loggerheads with them, and they will go sooner than later, and you'll be left shaking your head saying, why are we losing so many people? It's because you don't care about what they care most about. So take your human development, your professional development, as seriously as if this was you, or if this was your kid coming in through the doors of your firm, and say to yourself, what do I need to do to make sure that the next place you work, you're going to be able to do a whole lot more, make a lot more money, and be a lot more satisfied? If that's your approach to professional development, you are going to be fighting people off to get into your firm, rather than the other way around.
It's a salient message for us to finish up on, Jordan. I really appreciate your insights today. Congratulations on the impact that you're having on your audience. Let's talk again later in the year, but for now, thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Law Management Journal Q&A podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing. For more law management insights, please visit lmhub.com.au.